Hey YouTube, how you guys doing? My name is Kyle, you know me as Dragonmar, and welcome to a new video. In this video, we'll be going over 10 of the most common mistakes you see in the gold rank and how to fix them. Now, if you're wondering, hey Dragon, you're a little higher than gold, how do you know these mistakes happen there? Well, great question. It's from the dozens and dozens and dozens of viewer sent in VOD reviews that I have done from all sorts of ranks, from Iron to Immortal, you know what I mean? I've seen it all, and that's where these mistakes are being brought from, and trust me when I say that you are probably going to see yourself in this video, and that's fine, because we're going to fix it, and I believe in you. So, with that being said, if you do like these type of videos, and maybe want to see a VOD review live, hey, twitch.tv/Dragonmar, I'm live every Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday for VOD reviews. But, with that being said, I think it's time to start the video, so let's begin. All right, jumping into the first mistake that you see at the gold rank, and it is wide swing. So not exactly something to do with aim, right? I'm not going to talk about crosshair placement in this video. You're welcome. But I want to talk about what it means to swing wide and sort of how to jiggle peek. So let's pretend we have this little practice dummy over here, a little bot, and we're going to shoot him, right? So if we're going to peek from a corner, right? How much do we want to expose ourselves is the question you should be asking. And the answer is, obviously, as little as possible. And I hope that's very, very obvious to you guys. When you peek a corner, you don't want the enemy to be able to see your entire body. That's never useful. You want to be the littlest sliver you can of yourself. So that is why you have to make sure you're not doing a wide swing. Now, a wide swing, right? If this is a bot here, this is what this would be like a jiggle. So something like this. Just kind of getting on the head. Hello. Not really showing much of the body. A wide swing, something like this, where you go deep, where you go far, way away from the corner. Why is this bad? Well, it takes time to run back. If you miss, you have to get out of the way or something. It's hard to get back from a wide swing like that. Also, exposes yourself to a lot more angles. If someone is holding like this close on a corner and you swing like this, well, now you're exposed to this guy too. So it's about limiting the amount of angles you're exposed to as well. Very, very simple fix. You just got to peek close, and this is more of something you just have to keep in mind, right? It really is simple once you get used to it, but in the beginning, you're going to be really tempted to be like, oh, I really want to see exactly where this guy is. So you're like, oh, let me run out here and take a look. No, you have to trust yourself. You have to trust your crosshair placement and your game sense of where the enemy is going to be, and then peek them just like that. See how perfect these are? That's what you should be trying to match. Avoid wide swings. Now, mistake number 2 is something that I think a lot of people do by accident, and that is to not call your utility when you use it. And in particular, this is really bad for flashes. So a lot of us play agents with flashes, whether it's Breach nowadays, maybe you're still using Phoenix, but it's very common to accidentally flash your team. So how do we fix this, right? Simple. You just call your flashes, just call your utility. Now, it actually goes past flashes into other stuff like smokes, for example. It's really important that your team understands when you are using an ability. Why? Because a lot of abilities cannot be used multiple times in a round, or if they are used, they require some sort of action from your team to like react to it, right? So be proactive when it comes to this stuff. If you're going to smoke off a site for an execute, let your team know you're doing that so that they can be in position. It's really important that if you're going to use like a Sova arrow, like a recon bolt to try to get information from, let's say, behind a smoke, that your team is ready to follow up on your arrow so perhaps they can get some kills through that smoke. Very, very important to communicate with your team what you're doing with your abilities, even if it doesn't seem that relevant. Trust me, someone is not on the same page, and just giving this little bit of info can really, really help you up your game and up your communication with your team, which is extremely important once you get into the higher ranks. All right, so mistake number 3 is a big one, and this is something that really, really hurts players, and they don't realize it because it doesn't seem like you're doing anything wrong, and that is playing too passive after you've planted the bomb. So playing too passive on post plant. Let me explain. So let's pretend we plant the bomb right here on APC. Pretty default spot here for A site. Bomb has now been planted. When I talk about playing post plant too passively, this is an example I ran into recently in one of my games. Is I had a player just standing in this corner here and not moving at all. Now, if one player does this, fine. But when you get 2 or 3 players all playing passive, do you know what happens? Well, let me explain. The enemy team is going to start clearing positions, and slowly they're going to realize where you are not. they're going to start peeking angles and they're going to start finding you one by one. You can't have that, and that's part of what we're trying to avoid. When you play too passive on post plant, you just give the enemy team an advantage, and it's so easy to avoid. You have to learn how to get aggressive at some point. Okay, so you're probably wondering, how can we fix that, right? So instead of sitting in this corner, what you actually want to do sometimes on post plant is get a little bit aggressive. Now, you want to be careful, but instead of sitting in this corner, you could be holding this angle right here, this walk up from short. And this is about 50 times better than just sitting there passively, because now you can have players playing on site who are watching showers, or maybe you'll have a player back here who's playing CT for you, so you know no one's coming through that way. The point is here, when you play too passive, you let the enemy team walk into the site and clear out a ton of site, and you never ever want to allow them to do that. You always want to keep the enemy team guessing about where you are. Now, mistake number 4 is actually one directed at the agents with smokes, and that is to never rush your smokes, because, and I say this as someone with experience in this, it does not take very much time to get down a good smoke. We're literally talking milliseconds here. Do not rush these, because it will and it can get your team killed. Let me explain how. So let's pretend we want to smoke off over here in U-Haul. Let's say I'm trying to go fast and I accidentally throw a smoke like this. Let's watch what happens. See this crack right here? Now this could be even worse, because you could have, like, maybe, let's see if this goes over a little bit more here, right? The point is, when you have these little cracks, this happens all the time. Your team is just going to see this smoke, and they might not check this part as it's going down. They might think they're safe. I cannot tell you the amount of times I have seen an enemy smoke like this. I sort of walk over to where that crack is, like this, for example. I walk over to where that crack is, and I let them come at me, and I get free kills from it. This is so easily avoided by just taking your time with these smokes. A lot of people go for these execute smokes as quickly as they can. They just place them fast because they want to get into the site. But when you start getting sloppy and you start leaving these little cracks like this is when you start losing those stupid rounds. Rounds that you should never have an excuse to lose, or at least you're, giving up free deaths when you definitely shouldn't be dying. Very, very important to remember that you should always be taking that extra few milliseconds it takes to place a good smoke. Always take them. It's always worth it. All right, and mistake number 5 is something I think that ticks a lot of people off, even if they don't realize they're the ones doing it as well. And that is that you make the mistake of wasting utility way too early in the round. So when I say wasting utility, I really just mean using utility. So using your abilities way too early in the round. And what you're probably going to ask me is, what does that even mean? Great question. So essentially what we're talking about here is looking literally at the round timer and then using an ability, and then not even realizing that there is no way for that ability to get any sort of value at that stage of the game. What can we talk about with this? Well, first of all, smokes. Imagine smoking off an area like, let's say, Heaven on Bind, without any single person being able to get near that smoke, to get any information from it, to gain any value, to get any pressure, to gain any map control. That is a waste. Now, of course, you can always say, hey, well, you're sort of putting pressure on the enemy, you're denying their vision thing. Of course, I see where you're coming from, but you have to be very, very careful with when you use your utility, since you are so limited on it. Too early in the round doesn't make sense. This is a big problem for me as well, because I will smoke a site a little bit too soon sometimes. You have to pay attention to where your teammates are and if they can get value from your utility. Things like Sova arrows and recon drones, smokes, flashes as well. Flashes are a big one. You want to help your team? Well, you want your teammates to peek these players when they're blind, right? So why are you flashing before anyone is near that corner? It's all about communication here, and you never ever want to waste that utility too early. Mistake number 6 is forcing too often. Guys, do not let yourself tilt. This is a big problem at these ranks, where players are just like, they feel like they have to carry the weight of the entire team on their backs. So they'll force into every round. And suddenly you might be the best player, but you might be using a Spectre every single round. And that's just not getting the job done. It's incredibly important to understand economy management. So to fix this problem, look at the economy of your team, enemy team, and work with your teammates here. Work with them. Ask them at the very least to see if they'll save, so you guys can stop forcing forcing every round, or maybe ask someone to buy you, things of that nature, or save a gun maybe if they got a kill in the previous round. You have to work with your team here. It is such a bad habit to continuously force, but it's so easy to fix. It just takes a little self-control. Mistake number 7 actually kind of branches off of the forcing thing, but it's about throwing away eco rounds. So an eco round is a little different than a force, as I've covered in a previous video, in the sense that an eco round is a round where your entire team is on the same page and everyone is saving their money for the next round, so they're not really buying anything. You know, maybe a ghost here or there, or like a shorty or something. But what people do is they actually straight up give up on these eco rounds. I've seen it in my own games, you know, where the strat is, hey, let's just run it down mid, and you just get blown away by like an Odin or something. You're like, damn. But what if you took these rounds a little more seriously? And let me tell you guys, sometimes it's the eco rounds that you win that end up winning you the game. Do not throw these rounds away. To fix this, all you have to do is change your mindset and how you look at them. Look at these rounds as an opportunity not just to win, but to save a little bit of money. And to potentially get a weapon out of it as well. It's really important. If you change that mindset, you can start looking at these eco rounds as rounds where, hey, this is actually a great opportunity for us, instead of, damn, I wish I had a Vandal. You know what I mean? Very important you change your mindset here. It makes all the difference. Mistake number 8 is about overcommitting to a bomb site. Now, this is not just a defensive thing. Over-rotating or not rotating enough, in which sense it would be called overcommitting, is a huge problem in these lower ranks, where teams think, hey, we've used a little utility on this site, we have to take it now. Sunk cost fallacy comes to mind here. But in reality, sometimes the best thing you can do is actually switch up the site you're taking sort of mid-fight. Make the call, say, hey, let's rotate off the site, maybe get a kill, use some utility, but you know the entire enemy team has already rotated. It took some time to get that kill perhaps. Well, maybe that's the perfect opportunity for you to rotate. This is something you have to fix. You cannot get into the mindset that, hey, we're starting on A site, we're taking A site. You can't do that. It's all about thinking to yourself, what bomb site gives me the best chance of winning this round? Of course, I'm really talking about attack here, right? And you can't overcommit. You have to always keep both options available to you, and understand that there's probably gonna be at least one round in every game where rotating probably wins you the round. And trust me, at these ranks, it's very, very easy for the enemy team to tunnel vision as well. They'll all rotate. People love going for those kills, going for the frags. And you can sometimes walk into sites for free after they over-rotate. So give that a shot. See if it works. Trust me, though, you are going to find so many more wins if you can change that mindset of not worrying about what you've used on one site and then going to the other one and taking that one. Mistake number 9 is about over-aggression without going for trades, and this is something aimed at you entry fraggers, players who play duelists like Phoenix, Reyna, Raze, and Jet, really. And the problem with this is that a lot of these players want to get aggressive, and rightfully so. That's your agents are very well suited for that. But the problem is that you're not actually waiting for your teammates to come with you. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, I don't need my teammates. Well, you do. And the reason for that is in the chance that you do die, which you will die eventually, you need someone to help trade that kill out. So what happens is, yeah, your Phoenix might run into a bomb site and get a kill, but if he immediately dies, that doesn't really help you that much, as opposed to if a teammate is right behind them and is able to trade out that death. That changes everything. Very, very important for entry fraggers to understand and to change this attitude where they run into places solo. Instead, ask a teammate to come with you. They'll gladly trade out your death, get that free kill, and take a site. It's really, really important here to work on your communication with your teammates. This is something that is a must-have in the higher ranks. There is just no chance you're going to win very many games if you're running into places solo. You're going to die. They're going to take 2v1s, and with no trade, no win. Mistake number 10 is something that I see in just about every VOD review I do, and that is taking your abilities out while in dangerous areas. Guys, it is so important that you understand when and where you should be using your abilities and why you should not be using your abilities when you're trying to get onto a site. There are some times, of course, when you'll have to use an ability in a dangerous spot. I get that. But when you're retaking a site, don't use your smokes as you're walking into that site. You know, when you are trying to clear a corner, don't pull your molly out as you're like checking that corner. Very, very simple stuff you'd think, but unfortunately a lot of people still fall into this trap where they are just taking out utility at the worst times. I did a VOD review recently where I think someone did it about 5 or 6 times. Every single time they did it, they died. I am positive with their aim, they would have won almost every single one of those fights. You don't realize this until you start paying attention to it yourself. Very, very important to have that self-reflection, to be honest with yourself. A lot of you do this. I promise a lot of you do this. Very simple fix. Use your utility before you get into the site. Yes, it's not going to be quite as useful, but trust me, it is so much better than pulling your utility out, having someone peeking you, and you die. Alright guys, that is going to conclude the video on the 10 most common mistakes I see at gold and how to fix them. Hopefully this video can help you guys. If it does, hey, maybe leave a like, subscribe if you like these videos. I hope to see you back in the future. Leave a comment of what you want to see next time. But with that being said, hope you guys have a great night. Take it easy and peace.